Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the second session of Employability, how to stand out from the cloud. Our last event discussed tips on how to stand out your resume and in video interviews. So if you missed it, you can watch it on our Woodrow Mercer Technology YouTube page. So today we have some fantastic talent and recruitment managers from the software and cybersecurity industry to share their advice and tips to you all on how to market your LinkedIn profile. So LinkedIn is a top social networking website for job seekers, and it has around 675 million users and over 30 million companies use the platform. So with so many people now looking for work, unfortunately due to the impacts of COVID-19, it's more important than ever to stand out from the crowd. So really believe this will give you some value and insight from some of our experts. So thank you all for joining us. So let's get started. So we are going to cover a number of topics in this event today. First of all, we'll talk about profile pictures. What is the best profile photo? What should you avoid? And also then headlines and summary. You know, what should you be writing in there to stand out? Thirdly, keywords. You know, how can you get potential employees and recruiters to find you? 4 is network. You know, who should you be connecting with? 5 is recommendations and endorsements. How important are they? And then finally, content. You know, what should you be posting? So let's start off with introduction with some of our fantastic talent managers. So let's start with Cindy. Hi, Cindy. Thanks so much for joining us. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and what's your top tip when it comes to marketing your LinkedIn profile.
Eve, I'm thrilled to be here with you and the other panelists. I'm Francis. Super excited about this topic. I actually utilized LinkedIn to get one of my top jobs. So huge LinkedIn supporter. I am currently Senior Manager Talent Acquisition for Illumio, cybersecurity leader in Silicon Valley. I love recruiting and I love helping people in this most important decision, which is your next employer and where you're going to work. So I'm super excited about this topic and excited to share you some of the tips that I use every day.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much. And next we've got Deborah from Proofpoint. Thank you again for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and one of your top tips for LinkedIn profile.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. So happy to be here. I use LinkedIn every day to recruit. I work at Proofpoint and I support our sales organization. I'm going to start really working on HR roles too. I'm going to be leading that as well moving forward. A couple tips. I think the biggest thing for me that I look at is the headline. I think that is really, really, really critical to have that in order because it is the first place I look. So to have your title and to have a couple of really unique, hardcore skill sets on there, I think is critical. I've been working in talent acquisition for about 15 years. I've been with Proofpoint almost a year now. One of the reasons I really wanted to be here is I'm working since COVID hit on 2 initiatives. One, impacted workers. So I am going after trying to partner with organizations that have laid off their workers and contacting their HR department to see if we could help them in any way place some of their workers, and also going after employees of those organizations as well. Another initiative I led was last month, we had a Discover Proofpoint event for field sales, and I put that together. And we had about 200 attendees that we hope to hire from within the next year. So we can use those attendees to really move them forward in our hiring process. And the event was really great. We had the head of our sales organization at Proofpoint talk, and it was really, really successful. Again, happy to be here. I feel like this kind of ties into some of the initiatives I have worked on this year. And so I'm really, really looking forward to getting started with this discussion. Thank you.
Brilliant, Deborah. Thank you so much. And last but not least, we've got France from Signavio. Thanks so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself, France, and one of your top tips for marketing your LinkedIn profile.
Hi, everyone. So I've been working out of Europe, hiring across the globe, quite a lot in the US over the last year, but everywhere in Europe, started in Asia recently, and everything is different when it comes to interviewing in different countries. You're going to want to focus on different things. For me personally, my top tip is really keywords. When you enter those keywords yourself in the tool, you want to have exactly the same wording, and it's a nightmare because you're never going to get that. So the more broad you can be, or the more simple sometimes can be very useful to be found. But yeah, in general, I hire for go-to-market, so everything from business development to SVP of customer service, which is a position that just is coming out in the next days. If anyone has someone to refer here, let me know. So really the whole scope, and some very exciting things coming up at the moment with Signavio, which is a software that does more or less everything around process and process management. But yeah, overall, very excited to be here. Thank you, Eve, for the invitation. Very happy to be here again.
Thank you, France. Thank you very much to everybody else that's introduced themselves as well and sharing some of those great tips. So now we've broken the ice, we know who we all are. Let's talk through some specific points that candidates often raise to me. So let's begin. The first one is actually one that I believe is the most important when it comes to first impressions, and that's profile picture. So I suppose putting it to Cindy, Deborah and France, what is the best profile photo? What should candidates be avoiding?
I think candidates need to really show their face. Make sure the resolution is, you can see that recruiters and hiring managers can see your face and it's not blurred. I also think, I really think it's a good idea to be solo in the photo. Sometimes if we're sharing with someone else, it kind of takes away. It needs to be as professional as possible. And you don't see that all the time on there, but I do think that's critical to the photo.
I'd like to add in on what Deborah is saying. Absolutely, you want to make it as professional. You want to key it in. If you can just have it as a headshot, it doesn't need to be your full body shot, but just a headshot so we can see who you are. At this time, I know it's really difficult if you're updating your profile photo to try and have it be professional. But if you can, just put on something that you like. Put on, your best outfit, something that you think makes you stand out. Maybe put on a fun piece of jewelry, or for gentlemen, put on that fun tie or a funny scarf, but put on something that you feel really signifies you, really makes you stand out and signifies yourself. And then if you can, have a good friend or have someone in your family, because we're in COVID at this time, take that picture. But back to Deborah's point, let's really get in on your face. We want to see you and have it really speak to you. Have that picture say that that's who you are. And
also don't not have one, or put something else like a cartoon character in place of you. You really need to have a photo, and don't leave it out of your profile. I see that a lot too.
I'm going to add just one thing to what you both said, which I completely agree with. because I hire quite a lot of young professionals, I see sometimes people, maybe just out of college or that are a little bit too much of a sort of an Instagrammer or influencer and will put very sexy pictures with Instagram filters or something of the sort. You want to avoid that at all costs because it makes you look really unprofessional. And as everybody said, you want to be wearing a tie, you want to be wearing a shirt, you want to try and look at your best as you will dress up for an interview.
France, that's an excellent point to remember that LinkedIn really is kind of your professional Rolodex. This is your opportunity to show up in a professional context to your next employer. So it's very different from what you would put on your Facebook or your Instagram or your Snapchat. This is a chance for you to show up your business professional. So that's an excellent point, Franz. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, no, all of those are really good points. And that actually comes to something that I'm going to share my screen with everybody. Just a photo of what to do and what not to do. So I'm just going to share that now with everybody. It's fun because I think it really shows everything that we've just mentioned there. So hopefully you can see that what you should have for your LinkedIn profile, so nice close up, nobody else in it, is very different to what you should have for Facebook, Instagram, and also Tinder as well. So that's great. I'll just hide that there. So thanks so much then. So moving on to the second point, headline and summary. What should candidates be detailing in there, and particularly with the summary, how long should it be?
Well, the headline I think is, again, important. I am a recruiter with hiring a lot of people, a lot of different roles, and I move pretty quick. And I look at that headline and it really needs to be updated with the title. For example, enterprise sales account manager, cybersecurity, or security products. If it's not updated, I could possibly miss someone really good that I could be contacting. So I do think that the headline, for me at least, because I move pretty quick when I'm recruiting on LinkedIn, is critical.
That's a great point, Deborah. That's one thing, Eve, and France can speak to this as well too. As recruiters right now in the industry, we are having to move quite quickly to get through the volume of candidates that are applying. And of course, each of us knows that that's a person tied to that. So we're gonna be looking for those keywords and that industry experience. So to Deborah's points, absolutely. We want to see your title. We want to see the specific technology skill sets that you have. If you during this time have done some certification work, absolutely put that down. And then maybe if it's still in progress or if you got 2 weeks to take the exam, let us know. Let us know that you've taken this time during the pause to update your education or working on some different certifications, but that's what we're going to be looking for. So if you can put down in about 3 or 4 sentences your tenure, where you've been in your last role and what you're looking for to do, that's going to be that snapshot that Deborah had alluded to that we're going to be quickly looking for, that explains what you've done, what your current skill sets are, and what you're looking for to help your next employer with.
And let me add too, for the summary, I would add some accomplishments and achievements, and maybe some hardcore data. So when I'm hiring for sales, I kind of want to see, did I achieved 150% of my goal? Or I manage a budget of $5 million. I think that's pretty important to add to your summary.
Okay, great. France, did you want to add anything to that at all?
I think Cindy and Deborah have said more or less everything that was on my mind personally. One thing that's maybe off topic, but I like to see quite a lot, at a first glance, is the location of the person. It's not always relevant, mostly in those times where most of the companies are opening themselves more and more to remote work. But in some specific cases, it might be very important actually to add that you're open to relocation, which is an option you can actually click on LinkedIn that is extremely important to update regularly. But in general, you might have been working out of an office in New York, but you're actually sitting in California, and that's just the branch that you'll depend of. Those things I need to know actually where you work from, because this specific office might have a better reputation than another one, etc. And those are some details that you might not think about, but are actually really, really important, even if it's not about the specific location and you're open to working remotely or to relocate.
Excellent point, Fran, especially in these times. Excellent point.
Yeah.
Okay, no, absolutely. They are great points. And one thing that I think is really good to put in a summary as well is, making sure that you do hook your audience straight away. Too many profiles I see that says, hello, my name's Eve. Thanks for visiting is sort of the first sentence. Whereas I think that if you, especially somebody like myself who looks through, potentially hundreds of profiles a week, it's really good to sort of have a hook in that first line of the summary that tells me exactly sort of what it is that you do. So I think that's a good thing as well. Moving on to the next point, which is around keywords. So, making sure that you can get employers and recruiters to find you. What are you looking for?
Well, I think you have to think about what in your line of work a recruiter or hiring manager is looking for. And make sure you have that all over your profile, in your job summary, your headline, in what you've done, your work experience part. I think it's critical to really think about what keywords are relevant in your industry and functional area.
Yeah, most of the time when I start a search on LinkedIn, I'm going to add very generic keywords. And if you have a title like sales ninja or things like that, we can see that are very creative and very fun. Maybe it's best to keep it internally, but on your LinkedIn, I'm not going to find you if you have sales ninja, because that's never going to be a keyword I'm going to use. I'm going to use sales manager, account executive, and to keep it generic with sales roles. But then if we enter some more specific roles, you can have hundreds of different titles, and depending on the region where you work, it might be different than where the recruiter is actually sitting, which is often my case. Knowing then a pre-seller in France is called a pre-seller, but in the UK, it's going to be a solution engineer, and there's going to be a solution consultant in the US. And those kind of things you want to be wary about, and have something maybe a little bit more traditional or maybe more simple, just because in the first search, we're going to access your profile directly. If you have something a little bit easier just for the title. And then when it comes to the rest of the keyword, you want to add your type of skills, that it is languages, that it is the type of certification that you have. Really, it can come through with anything. For me, the title is probably one of the most important thing, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do.
No, some really good, excellent points, and particularly what France said about sales ninja. I do see probably generic words quite often. So, a lot of people will fill their summary with passionate, creative, innovative. All of those are great qualities. But when it comes to searching, we're not actually searching for those words. You know, we're looking for specific skills that you have. So in sales, if you're a hunter rather than a farmer, then make sure that that's in your keywords. For technical professionals, you may want to add a skill summary that has specific, technology, program languages, etc., that you use in there. So moving on to network, you know, I get asked quite a lot, well, who should I be connecting with? There's a lot of people on LinkedIn, you know, over 600 million users, but it is really important to connect with those within your network to really make the best value. What would your advice be?
Industry professionals, former colleagues, hiring managers, leaders, very important with the industry you want to join. People have done the same functional work that you do. So colleagues, I think that's very critical.
I think if there's a company too that you have an interest, definitely go on and follow their page so that you can be kept abreast of their updates. And to Deborah's points, you know, many times we lose touch with colleagues. And one of the great things as a recruiter that we love when it comes across our desk is an employee referral, because that's one of your colleagues that says, I remember this person, I worked with them in the past, I can validate their skill set, and we all get really excited about those. Also at this time too, there's some really great posts from some people that are active LinkedIn users. And it might be a good idea if that's within your industry, like Eve being in a cybersecurity recruiter, I like to make sure that I'm following her and what she's doing, because that way I will be kept in the loop of things happening in the industries that I'm interested in.
Also, I'd like to add, something I'd like to touch on real quickly is really joining relevant groups and getting involved with groups on LinkedIn. I think that's pretty critical. You can meet people, connect with people in the groups, have discussions, see articles. I think that's very important.
Cool, I say, I don't know if that's a good idea, but adding recruiters is always a good way to get a network quite quickly, or at least access to a network quite quickly, because all of us probably have, you know, at least 3,000 contacts on LinkedIn plus. So that's always the best way to get in touch with more people faster. But I think that there is also, that question also can be, I thought that when we were going to talk about network, we're going to talk about network once also we get inside of the recruiting process. Because personally, if something I like to do is also reaching out to the people I know I'm going to be interviewing with when it's, you know, a personal experience. Just to say, hi, we're going to have an interview together. Just wanted to add you and also stalk you a little bit to see what you've been up to in the past, because this is what you want to be able to see who you're going to work with. Maybe, you know, just calm yourself down a little bit by seeing, oh, they haven't been to business school either. This is great. Well, maybe I have more chances to get the job. And this is something I advise a lot to mostly younger professionals, but I think is always an amazing touch. And again, that's the way you're going to be able to stand out, is to have that first connection with your potential future manager.
France, that's an excellent point, and that's something I do as well, is tell interviewers, please look at the people you'll be interviewing with on LinkedIn. You might find out that you went to the same school. You might find out that you have connections that they've worked with in the past, but it's a wonderful icebreaker, and it's a wonderful way for you really to have a meaningful interview with that person. So excellent point, France.
Absolutely. And I always actually take a second when I see that someone in an interview is asking me, so how do you spell that name? I always take a minute and actually give all of the full names of all of my coworkers that will be in the recruiting process, so the candidate can do that work maybe, not everybody has amazing searching skills when it comes to LinkedIn, so I can help them a little bit. And that's my way to coach just a tiny bit a candidate that's going to be in the process.
All great points once again. Thank you so much. And all of those are things that I advise to my candidates as well. I think in particular that's really good is connecting to your interviewer, as you said, because it opens up being able to see all their profile. You can see who the comments that they've made, the posts that they've liked, which really gives you a good indication into the type of person that's interviewing you as well. So you can definitely use that to your advantage. So thank you. The next thing is recommendations and endorsements. How important do you think they are?
I think if you can get a recommendation from a previous manager, I think that's huge, because that shows in that recommendation, they can point out some of your finer qualities. They can point out your level of work. Colleagues that have also worked with you closely and can comment on your level of professionalism. I think for us as recruiters and for hiring managers, really gives us a snapshot into how you work, what are your best skill sets, and what really makes you stand out. So I like to look at the recommendations. I like to see, I feel that gives me kind of a little insight into who you are and how you show up to work and what you've done.
Yeah, I think it really substantiates that you've done the work, that you are a value to an organization. It says a lot when someone takes time out of their busy schedule to really write something about you. And I think that speaks volumes and really lets people know that, hey, I've taken the time to do this. And this really is someone who has ABC and is a great employee and can add value to your organization.
Yeah, I agree with you both. Again, I think it's something that is necessary in some regions more than some other. I work out of Germany, where we have a specific recommendation set up that's, the wording has to be very specific, so it can be translated in a point system and things like that. Very different than what you can have on LinkedIn. But what I like seeing on LinkedIn is just like that people actually went to their CEO and asked for the recommendation. Is something that's actually really important, because I can't assume that everybody is just giving away recommendation to anyone leaving a company. And that's something that I think people need to be aware of, is that you should always ask for a good recommendation from your manager, from someone that you've worked closely with, because they are going to be the people that are going to potentially also put you, think about you and put you in front of another manager. And you never know, maybe they're going to be the next CEO of this amazing company, and it's going to look super good on your LinkedIn profile in 5 years. So yeah, it's always a good thing to ask.
And I also, let me add, I think having maybe like 1 or 2 recommendations from each job could be really helpful. So it's something to think about when you're updating that, is trying to get those.
Great points once again. And, I'd say do not be afraid to ask, your ex-managers, ex-colleagues to write you a recommendation. I've noticed quite a lot of people posting saying, look, in these difficult times, how can I help? If we've worked together in the past and you'd like me to write you a recommendation, please just ask. And what I'd say is completely take advantage of that. I think now more than ever, people are very keen to help one another. So if somebody that you used to work with is saying, I'll do a recommendation, send them a message, ask them. I'm sure that they will do that. And I truly believe that having recommendations really is important, particularly when you're looking at a profile. and you can really get a feel for somebody based on what somebody else says about them. So moving on to, I suppose, the final part of a LinkedIn profile is content. You know, what should professionals be posting? What is it that you like to see?
You know, I really like to see if they are active on an industry. You know, what are the different industries? What are the different companies that they're following and posting with that? And I also want to add something that I'm doing a little differently. So I've actually incorporated into my routine, Eve, that, you know, I get up, I have my coffee, and then I go to my LinkedIn and I start seeing what's happening. And if there's things that have been posted that I like, make sure I like. And that little extra thing that I've been doing right now is there's some really amazing content out there of just positivity, empathy, and just gratitude. And I think that's something that I've really tried to make sure that I'm posting and I'm sharing, because we all need to have that extra positivity at this time. And if that's some way where I can help share that information with others, maybe it's a really unique little saying, or maybe it's a sage piece of advice. I really think that's something that at this time we all need to be reminding each other of, and then sharing those great pieces of advice or that sage wisdom, just to keep us all positive and moving forward.
Yeah, that's very well said, Cindy. And what you're saying about positivity, this is so important. I see a lot of people those days also posting, you know, my friend, my former coworker is looking for a new job. And this is something that is really appealing to me to see also just people helping each other. And Deborah, you were mentioning that you're participating into quite a lot of programs to help people that recently have been laid off to move into other jobs. I think this is just being an individual contributor to those type of movements that are really important those days, because not everything is always online, and maybe sometimes some people need a little push or a little bit of a reminder. And maybe if I know that this person is connected to this person, it might pop up more than just like from the 100 candidates that I've received on this specific role. And yeah, those are things that I really enjoy seeing. And I would want to add even sometimes just a personal touch. And I never really like when people go too much into, you know, everything that's political, for example, but a success your kid had, or maybe you are a manager and your first employee ever just finally got a senior role and you're so proud of it. Those kind of things, those like success stories are really always great to read with my morning coffee, very much like you do, Cindy. I would look through my feed, and those are my favorite things to look at, and I remember those names. And you know, somehow one day those people are potentially going to come up in one of my searches. I would reach out, and those are important things to add there.
And I'd like to add into, Deborah, I love the fact that you're with Proofpoint and that you all are taking this critical time to reach out to those that have been effective and trying in every possible way to look for, you know, your next employees with that. And that's something that I would love to stay in touch with you and share and see if we can get that across to other companies to see that how we can help each other. And France, back to your point too, you know, with our morning coffee, be sure to be mindful, take this time to show, you know, empathy, show kindness, and of course, tell us about, you know, those promotions, tell us about things that you're passionate about, because then again, this is your profile. This is what we're looking at on LinkedIn, and we're looking for our next great employee hire. Show us and tell us about yourself. That's what we're looking to see.
Yeah, I agree with all of you. I look at the news feeds every morning as well. You know, and there's some interesting articles out there and some interesting posts. And I think posting your industry trends or some tips and tricks and some really great news stories, I think is critical, and it gets you noticed and shows you're passionate about your industry and what you do. And recruiters are always looking at their news feed. So it is a critical component, and you can learn a lot from others and engage in conversation and meet people on LinkedIn. So it's critical.
Great, thanks so much for everybody's fantastic advice. All really, really useful. We've come sort of to more the end of the session. We're going to move on to questions from the YouTube audience, and I've got some questions from candidates that that couldn't be here live with us. But before we do that, is there anything else that you think is really important that we haven't covered when it comes to LinkedIn profile?
I think it would be good one more time, Eve, just to reiterate what you so brilliantly put up earlier, that LinkedIn is your professional business profile. This is what employers and recruiters are going to be looking at, and it's so important to just keep the professionality. Of course, you can be as social as you want on the other social media sites, but that LinkedIn is really kind of your business card. This is going to be your professional business card to the world. So definitely this is where you want to keep your professional presence. I think I just really wanted to make sure that we reiterated that, because Eve, that's such a strong and a most important point.
Yeah, I think keeping it updated, your experience, your current skills, anything you've learned is critical. Also, one thing I want to touch on, if anyone's out there looking for a new role, be sure you get your settings in the right place. Let it be known that you're out there looking. So go to the settings and put that you're open to opportunities, if you can. I think that would be really helpful. A lot of times I'll go there to see who's open, and also who's following a specific company as well. I think that's important. If you really want to go after a company, follow them. When I was sourcing for our Discover Proofpoint event, I went to a lot of people that were following us, that had interest in us. So it's important to go to your settings and get that updated.
Yeah. Also, if you're a champion for another company, if you're, for example, when it comes to Signavio, we have a lot of partners that are working, and implementing the tools or training people within their own companies. And just adding that sometimes will also help doing the connection. And again, when it comes to keyword, will help me see that, oh, this person already know my tool. Well, then, I don't even have to train them. That's an amazing skill to have. Those kind of things. Also, don't forget to add, like, as recruiters, we can add different ATSs. You can add that you work with Salesforce. It can be very minimalistic like this, or it can be a little bit larger. Those kind of things, yeah, can be very important.
That's true, because France, those are those key words that we're looking for. And to add on to your point, Deborah, we can actually do a search on LinkedIn and see those profiles that are following our company. So that's another awesome way to stand out, that if you do apply for a role, we can actually see that, oh, wow, and they're even following our company, so that we see that there's that extra level of interest. So wonderful points, ladies.
Great, thank you all so much. And we'll move on to the questions by some of the candidates that are watching on YouTube. There's a couple, so I'll go through them now with you. Some of them really interesting, actually. So one question is, what should job seekers add to their headline that you find as much information as needed, but as few as possible irrelevant information?
Well, I think the headline, again, is really the title. I mean, you have limits on how much you can put on there, but really the title and some really hot skill sets. If you're a programmer, put in a few programming languages or tools. I do think the headline's the most important. So to really add that title and add just a few critical hot skill sets, I think you'll show up in searches and you'll be in good shape.
Yeah, to add on that, the languages, like if you're a programmer, put down the languages. If you're in sales, put down, you're in medic, Salesforce, your regions, have you done a little bit of channel at the same time too? This is your time. This is basically your time to stand out. So if you can put down as much information in there, and in two, if you've updated some certifications, make sure that we can see that as well.
Yeah, sometimes I see also people that just add the reason why they were let go. And I think that it's not always necessary, but if you feel like you want to add it, please feel free. It's something that we see quite a lot. Personally, I want to see the industry, and because I recruit a lot in everything that's around sales, I love seeing the verticals. If you work in specific verticals, in specific industries, this is something you need to highlight absolutely, because it might actually land you the job much quicker than you thought.
Yeah, that is a great point. We have a lot of SLED openings in our organization, and a lot of people don't put that vertical down. So we're missing really great candidates. So that is a awesome recommendation to do that. One other thing I'd like to add is several times I see people put unemployed in their headline. I really don't recommend doing that. Perhaps you can put, senior sales manager looking for a new sales role in cybersecurity. I would really keep away from advertising that you're unemployed.
That's a great point, Deborah. Just, even if you just want to put seeking new opportunity, or I'm looking for my next exciting opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. No, great answers to that question. The next question is asking, can you comment on job seekers posting experiences, whether they're good or bad, on LinkedIn, and also public debate with others? What do you advise to do or not to do in that instance?
If we're talking about someone who's quite junior, who's just starting their career, it's obvious that there's going to be a 3 months, internship in here, or maybe just a 6-month training and things like that. But on the long run, the more your career expands, the less I want to see those, because the tenure is going to end up being one of the most important aspects of your profile. So maybe avoid putting or highlighting at least something that's a project, or there is actually a section called project that you might also want to classify a little bit. A specific experience and something that you're more doing on the side. It's also visually sometimes a little bit complicated, mostly if people have several jobs at the same time. If they are doing something, on the side, sometimes it can be quite pejorative to have a side gig. Honestly, and I'm sorry to mention it. I mean, entrepreneurs are everything we need those days, but you do want to be a little bit careful how you present that. And mostly if you're looking for a job, in the same type of let's say industry that you are currently working on, putting your side gig that maybe you're looking for a cyber security job, but your side gig is selling flowers, is going to be misleading. So you want to be clear and maybe just separate a little bit some of those things.
Yeah, it could look really confusing, I think. But you're absolutely right. You need to make it look as organized as possible. And when you do that, it just can be confusing. I see a lot of people who volunteer, and that can be kind of confusing. if you don't present it right. So presentation is everything.
You had touched too, Eve, on good and bad experience. At the end of the day, experience is experience. And those are the things that make us grow and shape us and make us who the people that we are. And I'm sure, you know, you learned something in going through the process. So remember, we're looking to find out about you. We want to know the skill sets that you have, the knowledge that you have, what you learned. We're trying to find out about you. So just put down those skill sets, put down that experience and that knowledge, and tell us about, you know, what you can do for us. That's what we're looking for.
I want to add my favorite line of all time. A woman added, "At pregnant, future mom as a full year of experience in her LinkedIn," and that's probably the best thing I've seen on LinkedIn in the last weeks. And I thought that was great. That's a great way to justify, you know, just like this 1 year of lapse in your CV. If you have taken a gap year, I mean, you know, we can only assume that it might have been because you had health issues, you had to take care of someone. Those kind of things can be said. You have to be obviously delicate. If you don't necessarily want to share those specific aspects of your personal life, those are things that you can also write, but maybe keeping it a little bit sensitive. And sometimes when it's more positive things, obviously you can write it with a touch of humor, and it's always great.
Again, great answers to those questions. And then another question is, would you advise for or against including short-term jobs on LinkedIn? Do recruiters see diverse work experience as a positive or a negative?
I think both. I mean, if you're contracting and you're a contractor, I think you highlight that. You know, I think it depends on the situation. You don't want to have big gaps on your profile. But that's actually a really great question. I think it really depends on the situation.
I think there is ways to actually go around that, and because you don't want me to assume that you were fired after 3 months. That's the last thing you want. And this is what I'm going to assume if you have only 3 months of experience in this specific role. So you can just write, you know, that this was a 3 month contract, that was a 3 months mission. And then from the get-go, I know that this was something that you decided to do. Maybe you can also highlight if this was, you know, to help, maybe it was a family business, or it's something that you care about, it's a charity, etc. Those are things that actually are quite good. Maybe you just wanted to live in another country for 3 months and you wanted to enjoy that you can be honest about those kind of things, but you really want to try and avoid the recruiters to assume that you might have just had to jump off, that was intentional, that you tricked the people, because we're going to think that this is what you're going to do to us, and that's going to be negative in the end.
So those are great points, ladies. Again, just clarify, that's something that all of us have had those conversations with the hiring manager. Well, why are you giving me this CV or this profile? They've left every job over the last 3 months. Well, if you just put in there contract work, or got reached out to a friend to go help him with this. I'm a Linux expert and they needed Linux Red Hat. So I went over and helped with that. Just clarify, let us know what happened. And to Francis' point, if you have the opportunity to go do some wonderful humanitarian work in another country, or you have the ability to take a sabbatical, just write that down. Let us know what's going on so that we can accurately gauge what you've done and then be able to understand the timeline of your work. So if it was a quick contract or you jumped in to help a friend because you had the skill set they needed, just let us know.
Okay, great. And then moving on to some of the final questions. As you may have noticed over the last few weeks, there's been an option to actually change your profile on LinkedIn, a little green banner that says open to work. How useful do you think that is? And if you are looking for work, do you recommend that everybody changes their picture to reflect that?
I think that's huge, because one of the first things that I'm looking for when I'm looking for LinkedIn profile is people who are open to opportunities. So I love it when I do a search and I see that green profile, because I'm like, awesome, they're looking for work. They're going to be open to my LinkedIn reach out. Of course, if you currently have a role and you're looking at changing to a different role, I mean, and that's going to really be your call if you're ready to make that change and put that green banner. For those types of cases, what I would recommend is definitely reach out to your network. As employees, referrals come in to recruiters. Those are something that we love to see. So of course, if you're thinking to change, definitely check in with your network to see about those possibilities and see if those people would refer you in.
Yeah, to Cindy's point, I love to see that people are open to new opportunities, especially if I love their skill set, then I'm extra excited to see that they're open to speaking to me. So I definitely don't think that hurts at all. And it could be very helpful and get the recruiter or hiring manager excited about reaching out.
Yeah, I love seeing this green logo. But to anyone out there that's maybe looking for a job and is still in a job and doesn't necessarily want to highlight that, we have the option with LinkedIn Recruiter, which is the, let's say, premium option of LinkedIn, to actually still click this in our search. So there are still ways around it if you don't want to highlight that you're looking for a job because you're still employed. This is not going to be pejorative if you don't put it. Obviously, we'll still have a way to find you if you highlight that you're looking for a job just by clicking this little button when you change your status.
Great. And just to note as well that nobody within your organisation can actually see that either. It's just people outside of your organisation, in particular recruiters as well. So going on to the final question, and actually this is a question that I think has created quite a bit of debate over the years, but should you write your summary in third person?
I personally don't like that. I find it a little bit weird because it's just confusing to me as a non-native English speaker, and I'm assuming that we're talking mostly to people that are writing their LinkedIn in English. By the way, unless you never want to work for international companies, you should always have your LinkedIn in English. And then if you fear that because you come from a country where people don't necessarily have great English skills, just have a translation just below on each sections. But you wanna have English in there. Personally, I find it a bit odd to have to not speak at the first person, but I'm curious to see what the others have to say.
I agree with that. I mean, you're writing about yourself. So, and you're highlighting your skills and your achievements. So it really does need to be in first person. It does sound weird and strange to be writing about yourself in third person. So I really recommend first person. You're talking about yourself, so that's what you should do.
That's the beauty of LinkedIn. This is such a fantastic tool. We can see your picture. We can see who you're connected to. When I look at someone's LinkedIn profile and I'm reading it, I'm actually almost envisioning having a conversation with them. And so when I'm reading, I'm hearing your voice. I want to hear you, and I'm imagining, how you're sounding. So absolutely, I want to hear you speak. I want to hear how you would talk about yourself. So definitely.
Fantastic, brilliant. Well, we're coming to the end of the time. Now, some fantastic questions from the audience. So thank you very much. And thank you as well to, all of you, Cindy, Deborah and France. Really appreciate it. I know that the candidates are really going to take a lot of use out of your advice today. So thank you very much. The recording will be available to watch on YouTube for forever. So if anybody has missed it, then you can still watch it afterwards. If you want to go back over some, interesting points to make note of them, then you can do that as well. But thank you so much indeed. And I really do hope that it does help people moving forward.
Thank you. I really enjoyed my time today.
Brilliant. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Eve.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Eve. Thank
Always
you,
a
Deborah.
pleasure.
Thank you,
Eve,
France.
France, Cindy.
Thank you.